Greetings, citizens of York. My name is Alistair Lord and I'm a candidate in the upcoming general election for York Central, and I would like you to give me your vote. Now, on my website I have 5 policies that I'm standing on, and the first one is that I am an anti-war, pro-peace candidate. First of all, I'd like to say something about the self-defense principle. Now, if you're walking down the street and someone attacks you, you absolutely have the right to defend yourself. I do not dispute that individuals and countries have the right to defend themselves when attacked. However, the military-industrial complex as it currently exists is not about defense. It's about corrupt financial transactions and it's about power and oppression. And I'd just like to give you a couple of statistics which I'm willing to bet that 90% of people who watch this video, more than 90%, are not aware of. So here's the first one, and it comes from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI. So according to SIPRI, in 2023 on planet Earth, there was $2,443 billion was spent on the arms industry. Now, that is a monumentally huge sum of money, and as far as I'm aware, it means that the military-industrial complex is in fact the largest industry on planet Earth. And here's some more facts. This one is a quote from the 2011 book, The Shadow World Inside the Global Arms Trade, and that's written by Andrew Feinstein, who is currently standing against Keir Starmer in London, and he was also formerly an ANC MP. And he says this: under the privatised military model, many of the outsourcing contracts are managed by contractors as well, down to drafting the contracts and assessing the performance of other contractors. As a consequence, oversight of the hundreds of billions of dollars spent by the US military and its contractors is woeful. The result is an almost total loss of accountability for public money spent on military projects of any sort. As Insight magazine has reported, in 2001, the Deputy Inspector at the Pentagon admitted that $4.4 trillion in adjustments to the Pentagon's books had to be cooked to compile required financial statements, and that $1.1 trillion was simply gone, and no one can be sure as to when, where, and to whom the money went. This exceeds the total amount of money raised in tax revenue in the US for that year. But if you think 1.1 trillion is a lot of money, here's a report from the 2016 edition of the Fiscal Times. The Defence Finance and Accounting Service, that provides finance and accounting services for the Pentagon's civilian and military members, could not provide adequate documentation for 6.5 trillion worth of year-end adjustments to Army General Fund transactions and data. That money did not just vanish in a puff of smoke. On the balance of probability, it went into private bank accounts in Switzerland and other countries. It was paid in bribes. Now here's the thing. $1.1 trillion, that's $1,100 billion. That money didn't just disappear. But this is the norm with the military-industrial complex. The second point I'd like to talk about is Britain's role in the arms trade and what the British military does abroad. So during Saudi Arabia's war against the Yemen, when more than 1 million civilians were killed, and if you've never heard of it, don't be surprised, because the pseudo-journalists in the mainstream won't go near a story like this. British military personnel were in Saudi Arabia giving logistical support to the Saudis to carry out their slaughter in Yemen. During the Israeli genocide in Gaza, British military personnel were again giving logistical support to the Israeli government to slaughter the people of Gaza. Now, Britain hasn't just propped up Saudi Arabia and Israel, they've helped prop up really oppressive regimes all over the world. And as far as I'm concerned, as a British citizen who has a moral compass, or at least I like to think so, this is completely unacceptable. Furthermore, it's a hit for the British taxpayer. The money that you pay in tax, those pounds, are going to fund, in part, Britain's military, which then props up some of these regimes abroad. And the final point I'd like to make is about the soldiers who fight in wars. Now, the soldiers who go off, join the British military and fight in conflicts in Iraq, in Afghanistan, other places, they are not the children of Tony Blair, they are not the children of Boris Johnson, and they are not the children of Keir Starmer. They're the children of ordinary working class people. When they come back from war, many of them are traumatised, and I think the figures are something like people who leave the army are 5 times more likely to be homeless, 5 times more likely to end up in prison, and substantially more likely to be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And they're just abandoned, and as I say, they often end up in prison, in mental hospital, or on the streets. And this is quite simply unacceptable behaviour. Thank you for giving me your time today, and remember, on July the 4th in York Central, vote Lord.